Well, well, well. We're here again. Mere days after a sparkling performance in Raleigh, North Carolina, where you allowed yourself to become a national embarrassment yet again, uh, Florida State fans get a little bit more fun news on Sunday morning. It looks like official, ready to go statements today. Mike Norvell is being retained by Florida State University. I think I'll read through the statements before we go through the myriad of things that need to be worked through. Let me just read what we have here. So this is from Mike Norvell, this statement. And guys, you add on which parts. I'm not going to read all of it. It's pretty lengthy. Surprise, surprise, word salad. But we'll get through it, and you guys highlight the things that you think are important. But I'm just going to go through. From Mike Norvell, FSU Board of Trustees Chairman Peter Collins, Vice President and Director of Athletics Michael Alford, and I are complete agreement that changes are needed for our program to improve. Oh, this is from Richard McCullough, excuse me. Coach Norvell embraces our support of that process and agrees success must be achieved. He continues to demonstrate unwavering belief in this program's future, and so do we. This decision reflects a united commitment while maintaining continuity. Continuity is important to Richard McCullough. This is from Mike. This program is been built on belief, sacrifice, and putting the team first. That set of values has always guided my actions and those of our players. The driving motivation behind this is to make certain that we are doing everything properly to obtain and retain elite players, add critical pieces, and sustain long-term success. I love Florida State, and I'm fully committed to this program and our shared goals. And this one is from Board of Trustees President Peter Collins. In addition to addressing the reality that on-field results have been far from acceptable to the FSU standard, somebody said it, we also realize our responsibilities as stewards of program revenues and how to best allocate those dollars to compete at an elite level. Now, that is interesting. I would love to talk about something we will not compromise. Throughout the assessment, one goal will remain beyond all others, achieving sustained championship-level success. We will address program deficiencies or performance deficiencies in the program. These deficiencies may include structural changes to the very large and complex program football has become. And these are areas where we will focus and invest. Anything else from those statements that I missed?
There's also an Alford statement, but we don't want to bore you with additional statements. Just showing that the leadership, all three of the trio, stepped up to speak on this when the school officially released that they were retaining Mike Norvell for 2026. I thought Peter Collins, I know Zach feels this way too. I thought Peter Collins' statement was the most unveiling. I don't know why Zach feels that way, but I feel that way because one, they were upfront that like obviously change needs to happen and the big change isn't happening, but they speak on other changes. They also in that comment confront the revenue situation with this idea that some believe in fiscal responsibility when it comes to athletics, and the idea of spending the money for a Mike Norvell buyout may not be the best play. That's not my opinion. I disagree with that. I'm sort of the opinion athletics money is all made up anyway. So if you need to spend it, you spend it, and you just try to figure it out because your goal is to be as good as you can because that generates more revenue.
Yeah.
But they don't feel that way. And I think that a underlying storyline here since at least Stanford, when we got statement version 1, is that finances has scared some people in that trio with regards to making a decision here. Not saying it's Peter Collins necessary, but Peter Collins is the chairperson of the Board of Trustees. Board of Trustees and him are, basically the balancing act with regards to making sure decisions for the university and for athletics are done in the best manner, in the best interest of the university as a whole. Richard McCullough as president is obviously focused heavily on the university side of it, while Alford is focused heavily on the athletic side of it. They come out as a unified front in the end, and they've always kind of made the goal of making sure statements and actions come out as unified. I don't think they're quite as unified as that statement will lend itself to personally.
No, and I'll get my thoughts on that statement too, because I think the Collins one was the most illuminating. And I think it actually, while I appreciate the candor, I think it leads to a lot of questions about what we've been told over these past couple of weeks. But Zach, why did you also agree with Chris? Was it for the same reason, or was something else about that quote really kind of stuck in your craw?
Yeah, well, I think he acknowledges that there could be changes, like he's saying, obviously not the big change, but these smaller scale changes to the structure of the football program. I have so many thoughts on this, but yeah, I mean that's why it was was something that stood out to me, because the rest of the statements just kind of read like every other press release you've ever seen. But at least that one acknowledged a specific deficiency that they've, I guess, identified in year 6 in the program as needing fixing.
I think this is a pretty incompetent evaluation period overall, because we've been told weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right? These last 2 games matter. These last 3 games matter. These last 4 games matter. And those were results that could have been variable. They could have won all these games that they lost, whatever, right? But the finance piece has largely stayed the same. So when you read those statements, it actually seems like the results on the field did not matter at all. Case in point, announcing this retention after a completely embarrassing national performance against NC State. So my question is, if they never mattered, which, reading between the lines, they clearly didn't. Right?
But I think the reason they kept kicking the can down the road was the hope of winning enough to make the statement more edible, for lack of a better description.
I agree.
So
I think that's
I think it was sort of like, we're going to avoid talking about this issue to handle that issue. The reality of the money, it's the same thing I've reported and stated throughout this entire thing for the last 35 days. The ability to have the money existed. The want to have to use the money wasn't the same. Can and want to are very different things.
But I also push back on can, because I think there's a difference between literally having the money to make the change and later on being like a functioning athletic department. And
you're worried about fiscal responsibility and putting yourself behind the 8 ball.
And I don't know the specifics to it, but I think
retaining Mike Norvell may also do those same things to you. It's a double-edged sword.
I agree. The
difference is, you're not blowing up $72 million to fire Mike Norvell on your staff.
Now, one second, because we're going to get to the finances, but I want to talk with this, Chris. Now, I agree. It's clearly why they delayed it, to make it a more edible decision. But the university, the administration's preference to deal with less heat by waiting to make this announcement that you're pretty sure you were going to make either way, you've made everybody in a worse spot. By delaying the announcement, you've let this toxic feeling around the program build, this apathy. It's going to make retaining players harder. It's definitely had to have made his recruiting harder over the past couple of weeks. If you knew you were going to do it and you knew you were going to take crap for it, I agree with you, Chris. They waited because they wanted him to go like 3-1 over the next 4 and make everybody kind of start to buy in. But they waited, and their cowardice has given Mike Norvell a tougher job now in 2026, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. The statement could have come, if it was going to always be this statement, it could have come after a win, VTech, for example.
Wake Forest.
Like there were opportunities. And again, like if you were going to fire him, you certainly had the opportunity after Stanford, because that was embarrassing off of embarrassing. And then you had other chances with Clemson and most recently NC State, where it easily could have been done. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think it's been managed the best way possible. I understood when they did not do it at Stanford, some of the reasons that were presented to me why they didn't do it, which was, trying to steer the ship the right way, finish out the season, continuity for the team, hoping to win, get bowl eligible, and hopefully more than bowl eligibility at that point. But, here we are now where you're fighting for bowl eligibility as you're about to go to the swamp. It certainly could have been handled better. I'm not going to carry water there. No, can't do it. Sorry.
No, that's
I do it too much, and I'm not doing it there.
It's just like you said. It feels, because this decision was made after that performance. It was like, oh crap, we said performance mattered. We knew we were never going to fire this guy anyway. We might as well get ahead of it now, make the statement before he has a chance to lose again embarrassingly in Gainesville, which is still on the table. Sorry, everyone. Now, Zach, I want to get to the finances. Because if finances are the main driver of this, and it's definitely not results on the football field. It seems like it's finances. How much more fiscally responsible it is to shit can the guy in 2026 rather than it would be in 2025? It's not going to be a fiscally responsible decision then either, is it? So how long are you really tied to this now? That's what I don't understand. It's not fiscally responsible, but
this feels like a multi-year decision, right?
Right.
Like, I don't think this is we'll see how things go next year and evaluate it again. Because what's different? You're going to go, and they just said they're likely, and we've heard this has been the most common thing that we've heard from sources over the last 24 hours, is the front office structure. That's what they want to change. That's what they're now all of a sudden focusing on. We wrote entire article series surrounding this exact topic last offseason. So my question is, I have this written out because before this news came out, I was kind of preparing myself for what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I literally, I wrote, Kate brought out my note app and I just started writing. But my question is, was Norvell not financially able to make further changes to the front office department, or did he just choose not to? Because I think either one is a horrible look.
I mean, I think they turned a blind eye to it an offseason ago. We talked a lot last offseason about the evolving front office structures in college football, the need for high-end people that understand both the finances of acquiring players and retaining players, and both the scouting portion of it. And
but do we know that was completely Norvell's choice not to do it?
I don't know that answer. No, I do not. But I mean, the amount of money thrown into this program under the guidance of Mike Norvell by the administration, I don't feel like they were financially hamstrung to do some things in that regard. Like that feels like pennies on the dollar versus the, oh boy, we're going to be bad and we have to deal with a $6 million buyout portion of it.
The point though is that it's still a horrible look, because how is this not identified as a huge weakness? And I would argue the primary weakness as to why Mike Norvell has not succeeded wholeheartedly in his career at FSU. How is this not identified as a spot that he needed to address last offseason? Why is this all of a sudden something that they're focusing on now and after year 6?
To me, it's because it's being forced on him. If you look at his track record of major changes at FSU, every single one of them has been forced on him either by circumstance or by outside pressure. I don't think that he was in a rush to like remess with the front office last offseason. He was thwarted by finance with the money that they're sinking into new coaches and coordinators and everything like that. No, the money was there. So once again, this change, Chris, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's forced on him because this is the final lever that he could pull. He already pulled the 2 main break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah, with coordinators.
Change your coordinators, and you still sucked ass. But there's the secret lever when you're over leveraged financially. So we're pulling that. And Mike,
and the other lever,
done it if he didn't have to.
The other lever in college football right now is we're going to make more financial investment in the program in the NIL.
Yes,
that one
100%.
can't really be pulled out of FSU either. Well, they could make more. There's always more. They are financially competitive in that regard,
Absolutely.
Especially on the landscape of looking at the ACC, where FSU currently cannot compete. Zach's right. I mean, Zach, I mean this lovingly. Zach's been a prick about this for a couple years. About the fact that they need to be
forward thinking is how I say.
He's been downright like feet dug in. I'm standing in the pain. I'm gonna take my comments and make them, and he's been right. And there's been times that I've pushed back on him, and no, he's right. Like the fact that this wasn't recognized before is just like, come on, like,
it's ridiculous.
If you're doing the proper job of evaluating why you got to 2-10 a year ago, this was abundantly clear. One of the reasons you screwed up the evaluation process. You built a football team that you thought was going to be a competitively good football program, and they were effing dreadful. 2-10 football program that somehow won a game because Cal kicked field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. Otherwise, your only win would have been against a non-D1 program.
Right.
Like that was abundantly clear. The fact that we're getting here 12 months later just means it's been reinforced that you keep doing it wrong. So like running it back again is a foolish chore.
I agree, Chris, and it's one of those things too. You went 2-10. You had bad talent, but you had better than 2-10 talent, and you undercoached that talent. So is the front office the new front office structure? And we could talk about what we think that's going to be. Is the new GM or the new like army of scouts going to help Mike count to 11 on defense so there's not 13 guys on the field? Like it's not just the talent this year. You've looked at some of the stats, like they're outgaining most of the opponents they played this year with 6 losses. They're finding ways to lose. They may be poorly coached this year compared to last year. They have more talent. It's insane. There's so many issues, but I want to talk about, so it was mentioned, the complex football structure, recruiting, yada, yada, whatever the statement said. Guys, what do we think? What type of structural changes are we talking about? Are we talking about large-scale hiring and firings? Are we talking about management layers, different positions. How actually seismic do we think that this structural change is going to be? Have you guys been clued on to any of that?
We got a perfect guy in here to answer that question.
Hang on, I'm putting on the only black thing I had wardrobe wise in the room.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that was the case.
Zach, are you wearing black too? Is that a black shirt?
You know me, I'm not in for the family support if we all wear the same color. I don't do that.
Ashley, a black shirt, please.
So Brendan is the one who last evening mentioned when we put together what we ran on the site last night, which was sort of just a compiling of the day that was. Specifically the front office stuff. He leaned into that. That's been a consistent theme that we've heard, we've talked about, we've discussed. It's been brought up on the site before, but it was sort of like a definitive point of the discussions yesterday. And we mentioned in that report yesterday that Mike Norvell and Michael Alford had spoken during Saturday. It's one of those things that I'm sure was discussed as well as obviously the game and other topics. So all that being said, I was giving Brendan a moment to catch his breath. He can probably explain best some of the front office related items he's heard.
Yeah, I fully believe that Florida State, the main card that they have left to play is revamping the front office. And yeah, I don't have exact specifics of like what sort of overhaul it's going to be at Trey, but it is most likely because they haven't made moves yet on it. And I don't think they have moves set up, but they're going to do a thorough evaluation that probably is going to mean bringing out consultants and bringing in people with level of professional expertise in building front offices, like more so at the NFL level.
Okay.
So professionalization of it to help guide that. And one thing that I've gathered in talking to people, not Florida State related, but people who are familiar with like how front offices work, the resounding information I've gotten that's stuck with me in the last couple of weeks has been Florida State, most of its front office is in the relationship, knowing who to work with on 7-on-7 circuits, running, connecting with runners, that type of stuff, versus
evaluating talent.
Yes, and so
shows on the field.
And so, with that in mind, you'd also be like, well, why don't they win recruiting battles at a higher level if the emphasis is on relationships? I think that's very fair to bring up at this point, given we've been very vocal for several years now as a staff about Zach more than most of us.
I called Zach a prick before he showed up with regards to that point, but I meant it
in a nice way.
But I mean, Zach gets
a lot of praise, prick praise.
Prick praise, a little prickly on here, emphasis on little. So sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to call your business.
Anyway, go ahead, Brendan. Yeah, so that's structural change. We think just do you actually think, you don't know, do you think it's going to be actually something that will have a tangible impact on this program? Or do you think it's lip service because it feels like this is another change that's forced upon him, that that if they would have won 8 games this year, he just would have ran with it and never would have.
He would have kept, because the chance to make that was last year and he didn't. And again, this isn't a I told you so type of moment. I guess that is what's happening, but like, this is something we all advocated for over and over and over again. It's documented. And to me, it feels like the issues with building the roster were far more prominent last season than this season. This isn't a great roster. This is an FSU level roster. I would argue that you didn't maximize your resources, but this isn't a bad roster. You've underachieved with it on the field. This should be a 7 to 8 win. You can still get 7, I guess, but it should be a 7 to 8 win roster. And after you beat Alabama, 9 wins. So like, you proved capable of beating a top 5 team in the country, and you've squandered that. So I would argue that this does feel somewhat like you're being forced to do it at this point, which makes me wonder, like, anytime someone's forced to do something professionally, the success rate of that doesn't feel like it's going to be particularly high if you're not doing it from a place of authenticity and really wanting to make it work. At the same time, it's like, bringing in people who are experts in evaluation would make sense to me. I don't know how much that helps Trey in the interim. Like, I don't know if that is going to lead to an overhaul of the talent you bring in one off season. But hey, if you can, get to 8 wins next year, we'll start throwing out numbers, because there clearly isn't a floor to this thing. You win 6 games next year, and that's enough to go and do this again. Maybe you can start stacking, young talent, and the evaluations will pay off down the road.
Go ahead. To add to Zach's point, or I'm sorry, to add to Brendan's point, I just hope whatever they do there, the first two things that are done is one, fiscal responsibility of paying players in an intelligent manner instead of just throwing money at problems and having wasted resources on your roster. And two, for the love of God, go recruit a real quarterback.
Chris,
What?
You edited it. You edited it.
I might.
See that and you edit it and you re-upload it. That's twice now.
Go recruit a real quarterback for the love of God.
People are fine with that. That was well said.
For the love of God, it's mind blowing to me when your job is on the line. The last 2 years, well, it wasn't on the line a year ago, but set yourself up for failure. Yeah. Your efforts were DJU, where you went for the bargain bin version instead of overspending for a guy who then went and won the Heisman. And then this year you take Tommy Castellanos. Like, what are we doing? Come on. Quarterback's the most important position on the field. Act like it. And it drives me berserk that this program does a poor job of doing that consistently.
That's on Mike.
Yeah.
That's on Mike. And more so.
But I'm hoping a new voice in the room might be able to convey that message in some manner.
The quarterback is important.
Frankly,
one day we'll break through.
Quarterback is important. Frankly, Derek Gray, the GM, had a big hand in bringing in DJ Uiagalelei. Like that was big. Gus Malzahn had a big hand in bringing in Tommy Castellanos. But Mike allows that. Mike signs off on all that. So
Zach, in your opinion, what sort of things, if we are kind of like in a blank check situation here with the front office, what are some of the things that Chris suggested? I thought so eloquently. What are some things that you would change? I thought it was great. I love it when the big man throws them.
I know you're not having to edit it.
You guys just get me fired up.
Why don't even edit?
It's been a long week. Okay?
Terrible moment in Florida State history. I
thought a statement would bring a level of relief because the watch is over. I can, actually sleep past 7:01 a.m. And God, I love sleeping past 7:01 a.m. But it didn't bring relief. It just brought disappointment.
Angry. I'm angry. No, I'm annoyed.
Screw anger. I went past anger long ago. I was angry on a plane coming back from California to Florida. After that, the anger went away. Now I'm just disgusted by it.
The decision isn't what really is tipping me over right now. It's the process. Have you guys talked about this?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes.
But explain why it's discussed too.
Why do this whole, this was a charade then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then needlessly made the fan base more divisive. It exposed yourself to all sorts of vulnerabilities. Go ahead, Zach.
I just want to add this whole charade period, if that's what we want to call it, had a actual tangible effect on the people in the building at FSU.
Yes.
I've been told that the mood in there, while there have been high moments after the home wins and the weeks after that, there have been some very low moments amongst the coaches and the players. It has not been a good environment, and it was primarily caused by the inaction of the administration,
and with the decision that a lot of games too. Probably.
I said mainly, but I know that it's an issue. And we've talked about this before. It's an issue. Players seeing the negative response on social media and stuff. And I'm not blaming the fans because the fans have every reason to complain about what's transpiring on the field and the whole everything surrounding it. But because of the administration's inaction and seemingly charade show that they put on for the last month and a half, acting like they were evaluating what's going on with the program when it's very clear that it really didn't matter. It had an effect on the players. And I know players met with coaches about this topic, about dealing with all the negativity surrounding the program. It was a real thing. And it's just, I wanted to bring that up because that's something I'd heard.
And I think that that's a good point, that this inaction, we're all adults. We know that not making a decision is also a decision, but this level of callous inaction, it shows a flippant, just a lack of respect for your head coaching staff, the people that you're employing, the players that are on the team, and it shows a massive lack of respect for the fan base, that you think that you can go through a months-long fake evaluation period where you damn well knew what the end result of this was going to be anyway, And you think that you can send out a multi-pronged statement, whitewash through like a national media personality or whatever, along with all of these other talking points that you had him throw in subsequent tweets, which made me sick to my stomach. But whatever, I'll get to that when I record my solo show.
Oh, baby.
And the fact that you think that the fan base has the memory of a drunk housefly, that they're going to forget, like, oh, okay, well, we're taking him back. No big deal. We're going to forget that we went through this torturous, prolonged, fake evaluation period. And, hey, don't worry, your booster rep's going to call you today to re-up your subscription, right? All of the things that you pay for related to this university. Well, it's near the end of November. Those bills are going to come due. I'm not going to make Brett edit something again, but it's a big F you. We don't care. We don't. Or we care enough, but we know that you're going to come back anyway, right? Look, we don't care. We know you're going to come back. You're not going to go anywhere. You need your fix. Like, you love college football. You love Florida State. We don't care. They don't. Actions show care, not words. The actions have shown a complete lack of care and respect for basically everybody that invests in this program. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree.
Trey.
I
My
agree.
vein on my neck is starting to pop out a little bit. I'm not.
I think
Brett said let it rip. He's going to edit it all at this point. So this
going
is
with
I gotta save some for
the dealing with athletics mindset, like the one where money doesn't matter, which is certainly a thing in athletics. I think to your point, the hope is always that the next thing is good enough for you to forget the last thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people will forget this one, but I do think that's sort of the working version that they go with.
I think you're true. I think that is the mindset. It's like, we'll get him. We'll get him again. We'll get him again.
Hoisting trophies. Trey's going to be happy. He's not going to care about.
That's right. Yeah, when he's
35 days of anguish.
Well, when he's there with that bad boy lawn care pesticide bowl trophy in Sheboygan, he'll be in there celebrating too. Like, what a just. I don't know. Your fans probably aren't idiots.
Brennan?
Do you guys talk about the money part of this?
I want your opinion on this. Yes, because if the Collins statement is that like his was very illuminating. The financials are playing a large part of this. Financial responsibility, fiscal responsibility. How much more fiscally responsible it is to fire Mike Norvell in 2026 rather than 2025? To me, I don't think it's going to be fiscally responsible 365 days from now either. What do you think? This seems like a multi-year thing.
That's when I said I don't know what the floor is to this at this point. I think you open it up for this to be a fair question. Is like what is so bad that you would actually be willing to spend $40 million on this as a buyout?
I told you they wouldn't give me a threshold.
Yeah, because the threshold doesn't exist. Zach and I were on the phone this morning. He said it. I don't know if you've articulated it this way, but I was like, yep, I'm totally on par with this, Zach. We got to stop talking about that they have the money. Like, that was the messaging that they gave us. I have the money to go out and buy a Mercedes-Benz right now. I would not have the money to then pay my mortgage in 6 months. Like, there would be a repercussion for it. So do I really have the money to do it? And the answer is no. And so they're telling us like that the actions are that they don't have the money to do it, or that they're okay with mediocrity or below mediocrity. This is below mediocrity at this point. That's an insult to mediocrity because they haven't won on the road in the conference or anywhere for that matter in 2 years. And guess what? If they lose to Florida this coming Saturday, then we're going to be going into potentially like, when's the next time? They're not going to do it in Alabama in a year from now in the opener. Like,
hey, don't say that. They can beat SEC teams.
That's all. Especially in game one, we got a lot of time to prepare. But Brendan, it's very true. You and I talked about this on the phone before recording. They painted themselves into an awful picture from an optics standpoint.
Unnecessarily.
Either you have the money, unnecessarily. Totally agree. Unforced error. Either you have the money, you're fine. Money's fine. Don't worry about money at Florida State. We're Florida State. We just don't care about what happens on the field. Or, no, we really care about what happens on the field. We're just broke as shit. But that's they kind of went with the latter, right? So it doesn't. I don't know, man. I don't like this is a tough one. We've actually been through some very tough moments in the Mike Norvell tenure. Like, when you kind of go through, there's quite a bit of them, right? The Jacksonville State thing, the Travis Hunter stuff.
Greatest test.
I'm tired, boss.
Like the other day, being like, I don't know why it happens. It is like it's like the Why does thou smite me?
I just know
mighty
when Trey and AB come for Game 5 of next season, they're sitting in Doak and they're looking at each other, and FSU's 2-2, and 2-3 is hanging in the balance. AB's going to look at Trey and go, but hey, at least we were fiscally responsible.
Man, Adam, I know you're getting brained by SMU right now. You take a look at that balance sheet, my man. Looking pretty healthy. You're in the black.
It's pretty good. As an aside on this, Trey and I were on the phone talk. I don't know how impossible it is in the year of 2025 for people to be on the phone talking about something that's going to happen. That thing happens, and then still have no cognizant idea that actually has happened. I was like, hey, want to get prepared? There's very well could happen. I don't know when it'll happen. I don't know for sure, but there's a pretty good belief that they're going to do a statement. Trey and I are preparing content, what we'll be able to do for it if it happens. And then I hang up the phone and I was like, what statement? What happened? Yeah. And so
it happened 3 minutes ago. It was the full Watchmen setting off the atomic bomb thing. It's like you're talking about something that I did 7 minutes ago. It was very great. But anyway, there's so much to talk about this, but now we know. We did a very, very lengthy, very good roundtable that you guys should check out, talking about the potential scenarios if he's kept or if he's fired. Well, he's here for sounds like for a long time, right?
We all felt very uncomfortable during that roundtable of the fact that we believed it might in fact happen this way.
Yeah, and we did, and you could see the actual physical strain of talking about a thing that we think was going to happen that we were all vehemently opposed to.
Part of the
it's just your soul leaving your body.
Part of what makes this so confusing is all of us, other than Trey, was just like, they're gonna have to show me, thought that this would happen, but none of us thought it would happen after
another wrong prediction from this guy.
Scoring 11 points on the road, it had to be. And if I'm repeating this, I apologize too. I just have to get off my chest. This all was done because they were petrified of losing to Florida and then having to make the same stupid statement after 2 losses in a row, and one of those being to a 4-8 Florida team.
3-8.
Well, no, they'll be 4-8 when they beat you next week. Okay. That's the fear. It's like, we're gonna have to come out.
Like Brendan's wish casting.
I don't care. The results don't matter, man. Results on the field haven't mattered.
They don't matter.
When was the last time we covered when was the last time that we covered something seriously in which the results actually mattered?
Well, yeah.
Because it wasn't 2023, it wasn't 2024, and it hasn't been 2025. We have not covered a football game where the shit on the field actually matters.
It's definitely prior to Jordan's leg snapping, yes.
Yeah, I'd say we've been covering AI football for about 2.5 years.
Yeah, I sat in a rainy Charlotte watching FSU win the ACC championship, and it was all for naught. By the way, I love how the ACC now goes to bat for their teams. That's very
they've all become statistical gurus now. God, dude, that's such a great point.
I'm not wrong on that.
No,
right?
You're not wrong at all. No, you're not wrong at all.
It's crazy. This is what we're living. This is what we're covering. It is,
and it's just it shows you once again. I agree. They go because to them it's weird because they're so concerned about optics and the edibility of this statement that they knew they were going to be making months ago. Like, oh well, God, well we're going to keep the guy next week. God, if they lose like 27-13 to Florida, that'll be embarrassing. We're going to make the statement anyway. So they're so concerned about the optics of this statement without realizing the catastrophic damage that the decision is making in regards to optics. Like, it's the short-term optics. Like, oh man, we're going to get a lot of fire Mike hashtags.
I think
it's crazy.
I'll push back a bit on that, Trey. I think there are people in that trio of people that are very cognizant of how bad this looks in the optics and the proverbial.
Well, what does that even mean?
Michael Alford hasn't been on Twitter since October.
I think there are individuals who understand that sending that email today with the statement was an atomic bomb that was going to piss off a hell of a lot of fan base and make their jobs extremely difficult in the coming weeks.
So they're working against themselves. Like,
no, they're not. There's not a unity to the decision with regards to the other side of the decision, which is moving on from him.
Can you explain that further if you can, Chris?
Right. Fiscally responsible situation. Mm-hmm. And those three do a good job of, and when I say those three, I'm speaking of President McCullough, A.D. Alford, and Peter Collins for the Board of Trustees. Those three do a good job of when they put out a statement, it's a unified statement. That's what they do. They're not going to show public,
dissension. Yeah.
They don't have discord in the end of a decision. I don't think that means they're on the exact same page leading to the decision. But I do think it's a decision that's made by the majority and or essentially 1-1 in a seesaw, and you get stuck sticking in neutral.
And I think to your point, this is the first time where you can kind of see some of the cracks. Like if I had to ascribe opinions to each one of those people, I think that I could based on what was in the statement. But
so to add to that, this is financially responsible for the university in the sense of it not a huge amount of money in a singular moment for both dismissal of head coach, staff, support staff, and then going to hire staff. It is financially a roadblock, a difficulty for boosters / the athletic department in fundraising. I mean, people are going to be unhappy with this. There's going to be a lot of people that probably decide whether or not to stay at their level, reduce their level, walk away from it, whatever their decision is. Again, never going to tell people what to do with their money, but I believe that's probably a real scenario we're living in. That is something that, the Ponders of the world with boosters and the Alfords of the world with athletics, they're going to have to deal with that. And that's going to be, it's not going to be fun for them. It's going to be a real difficulty. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I was just going to say, someone sent me a change.org fire Norvell petition.
So I don't want to paint it as though those three are
doing
all
what you can,
like
right,
sticking a middle finger up and saying screw the fans. I don't think that's it. Does the decision feel that way? Sure. I get that. I find it sort of disgusting personally. But I don't think it's done with the full-blown intention of just disregarding the opinion of the family.
Right. And I think to me, if there are people that are actually aware of it, then that just shows you how bad the finances really are. And that is what that is. Appropriate pause. No, I think that deserved a little bit of a pause there, right? What I would do, Zach, what I want to ask you, because now we laid out these scenarios, right? If he's retained. Now let's talk about what happens. He is retained. So let's talk about the different things that are going to happen in the offseason. From you, I want you to talk about player acquisition. I'm going to step away for one quick second.
Yeah. Well, signing day is in just over a week from Wednesday. That'll be the early signing period commencing, and FSU currently has a class, I think, consisting of, I want to say 28 prospects. I think most of them are pretty shored up from what I've heard. There could be some movement back and forth in the coming week. We'll see. But I do think that Mike Norvell being retained helps with this specific crop of recruits that have signed up to play for him. It's debatable what this class really is going to do. I mean, there's some players that we like in it. But
who's getting poached by a program that would normally be on FSU's tier, not the tier that they're currently operating in, but like when FSU's operating at peak efficiency, who's a threat? Maycock to Texas.
Yeah, but it doesn't even sound like he's a top priority for them.
Yeah, but even the point being is how many of these guys, we're talking about retaining guys, you're getting guys who aren't leaving because they know who the coach is, but how many of them are you actually being
pursued by other schools? I don't know.
Schools that are at FSU.
To answer your question, Brendan, I think it's less than a third of that class that would have those kind of options.
I think
Tiller probably would, Rankins would because of measurements. Maycock does in Texas. To Zach's point, though, the sort of somewhat lukewarmish interest.
I mean, Chauncey Kennan probably would, but he's like FSU all the way. Isaiah Williams really wants to sign with FSU. I know that some schools have contacted his representatives in the last week. I don't think there's any movement there, but I'll learn more in the coming days. Miami's always been around the recruitment of Jason Lopez, but it doesn't seem like there's much buzz there.
What are we counting, Brendan?
Trying to see the guys that actually have options to end up elsewhere in FSU's recruiting class.
What's the total in the class right now? Because you're at 6. What's the total? Is 24 or something?
28.
They're a lot. Man.
Okay. So, all right.
It's by far the biggest class that Norvell will have signed if they all.
What's the blue chip ratio there?
It depends. It's more staggering if you go by just the 24/7 sports rankings and not the composite, which I think the blue chip ratio is calculated on the composite, or at least the one that Bud does. I think it's 40% or so. I'll have to look more into that. I'll do something on that this week. But yeah, there's some talented players, but like to Brendan's point, I mean, the guys that like for instance, like Jay Timmons, like he got targeted by Ohio State and almost immediately flipped in the weeks of him being recruited there. They came into his recruitment like super late this fall, but it's Ohio State, and we talked about that at length. But then after that, here's something I wanted to bring up, like with the whole front office structure thing. So like you're going to make changes, it seems, to that department when it comes to evaluations and talent acquisition, it would seem. So that likely comes at those hires and changes likely come after next Wednesday's early signing period. So you're bringing in 28 prospects into the program if nothing changes, that this new front office staff didn't really even get to sign off on or evaluate. And then you're giving them less than a month to go then prepare for the transfer portal, where most of FSU's competitors are likely going to have their evaluations, their ducks in a row throughout the entire season. Not to say that FSU won't be in position to go and attack the portal, but I think they'll be working from behind at the very least. It'll be interesting to kind of see what they can do. I'm really interested to see what the structure looks like. Like what kind of power does a new potential GM have? How much are they going to invest into evaluations? Because right now, like, their scouting department is tiny. It's 2 people. And from what I've heard, their evaluations don't even really get considered all that much when it comes to taking a prospect.
What does that mean?
Like, so with every prospect that FSU,
what the hell?
With every prospect that FSU is involved with, FSU has like 2 scouts, one on offense, one on defense, and other people do evaluations. I'm just saying the people that are their sole job is to scout. I think that, or from what I've heard, they have to put in grades for every player that FSU is involved with. Instant take, like a take, offer take, camp grade, like
different levels. Yeah.
There's different tiers to it. But from what I've heard, like especially in the transfer portal, a lot of times those decisions to just take a prospect, to bring in a prospect and just take them, are done without the knowledge of those people altogether, or their evaluations being inputted into that discussion. And from what I've heard, I think Norvell has kind of basically separated himself from those evaluations being included in a lot of those discussions on taking players.
Brendan, you're making a stink face.
What part of that makes sense?
None. None of it makes any sense.
I think
that's crazy. 42-51. I mean, Brett said let it rip. We do one, we do them all. Chris popped the lid open. I'm just
sorry. No, here I'll explain a little better. So I think their evaluations are their scouting is used more when it comes to the actual like pre-game scouting of the next opponent or something along those lines. But when it comes to recruiting and evaluations of those takes, I do not think those evaluations are being really factored in that much.
So that's where, when we were talking about this past off season, the need for NFLification of the front office, like that is where there are multiple scouting departments. There's a scouting department that does advanced scouting for opponents. Then there's one that does it for like free agents and just what the acquisition in trades, free agency, whatever in league will be. And then there's the college level scouting, and the GM oversees all of that. But yeah, there's multiple levels and multiple departments. You have two doing it, and then there's a GM, and he has people under him who also like.
But those are like, I mean, those are not people that you would describe as.
Are they even really doing it though? If their evaluations aren't really been taken into account, I tell you, I didn't realize Florida State football loved fake evaluation periods so much. They're doing it in admin. They're doing it on the scouting stuff. This is crazy.
Fake scouting university.
Oh God, yeah, that's good. That's good. That one's.
And I don't know, like to Zach's point, like I think there's nuance to that, and he like that. There's times where the opinions are very much so taken, but it's not. there doesn't seem to be a unified, this is how the approach is for every single recruit.
There's not a process that's set in place that's used for every single
There's
recruit.
supposed to be. They have like software and stuff for people put in their grades, and it's supposed to go through the system, but it certainly doesn't seem like that.
And prior to 24, the way they went about that versus prior to 25, the way they went about that was a departure from one another too.
How you do anything. So let's get on, Chris. I want to ask you about Zach. That was good stuff on the upheaval from like the high school class, which I think, dude, this guy's coach, like it feels like that somewhat, it obviously it should matter at Florida State. It should matter at every program. It feels like high school recruiting doesn't really pertain that much to Florida State because they throw a mess of guys in, they don't develop, they portal over them anyway. And it doesn't really matter because each year is its own separate entity and monster. And the guy's always kind of like starting over every year from scratch, right? We're always coaching for our job. And it kind of feels that way from roster construction. So I do think there's going to be negative consequences on the recruiting trail, but I think you've kind of largely suffered through those. The guys that have been like prized like assets for other teams, they've already been targeted. They could smell blood in the water. They would have done that even if Florida State had a decent season anyway. That's just modus operandi, how it goes. I think the thing that I'm interested in is Chris or Brendan, retention. What effect is this going to have on retention? Now, I know that seems crazy because like, what do you mean retention? They're keeping the same head coach, but I don't think this coaching staff is staying intact next year. It does not seem like that at all. And I wonder if that effect, like, will the effect of maybe losing one, if not both coordinators, I don't know anything, just speculating, of losing one, if not both coordinators, is that going to have a more sizable departure impact than the head guy? I don't know. What do you think about retention next year? And what kind of, like, is it going to be about the same as we've seen in the past, or is this going to be a uniquely terrible year for retention? And what do you think about the composition of the coaching staff next year? I know it was a lot there.
The staff thinks they're going to retain at a pretty high clip. We'll see if that
the
proves
players
true. No, the coaching staff. Yes, current players that could potentially return, they think they're going to retain at a decent clip.
Okay.
I think that's more true on defense than offense because defense has more guys who have contributed who could return versus offense having a lot of guys aging out.
Yeah.
We'll see if that holds true. Retention has not been an easy task for any school, certainly not FSU in recent years. And the truth is, like, you watch this team on a week-to-week basis and whatnot, especially on defense. There are some guys that we know are making a pretty penny who probably don't need to be retained. You need to free up that money and go get something that fits better, can perform better. I'm not going to magically believe that if you bring back a Jason Jenkins or a James Williams, they're suddenly going to be a better player. Like, I'm not really interested in trying that anymore, especially James Williams, who had familiarity specifically with the system.
He got half a sack the other day. It's clicking for him.
To me, it's like how what they tried to do with offense this year, which was get 11 who can help you win games and put it together, albeit with a quarterback that I certainly am not in love with. I think it's what they have to try to do if they're going to do it defensively next year. You got to truly hit on guys. You got to know you have guys who at best are serviceably good and can help you be in position to compete in games. And defensively, they need to do that. I think their retention is going to be a mixed bag of some guys wanting to go to greener pastures, get out of here after a rough season again. But yeah, I think they'll try to retain some. I mean, I think, you know,
we did the exercise the other day, 5 on defense, maybe, that you feel
as
like
far as major contributors who are not senior types. Yeah. The number I think was 5 or 6. Yeah,
I agree, and that's the one where you see the most youth now.
The Twins are clearly 2 of those. You can throw Kevin Winning in there, even though he hasn't done a whole lot this year.
He seems to be redshirting. We need to ask about that, but he's been hovering at 4.
Shamar certainly seems like a guy he got forced into duty by injuries. He has,
forced into duty,
frogged over multiple guys who are older than him. So those are a few guys. And then Earl's obviously an older guy who I think they would love to keep, but he's a redshirt junior. We'll see if he decides to make a decision to go pro or go somewhere where he thinks it sets them up better for going pro.
Do you worry about retention of those guys?
I'm not worried about retention of anybody on this roster.
I agree, but I'm going to say with
Danzy's
you have to replace so much. And on defense specifically, I mean, Tony White's name's been linked to a lot of stuff since week 1. I don't know if it's going to be linked to as much stuff. We've seen some visible verbal disagreements on the field multiple times. those defensive guys, that's the one thing too. If Tony White leaves, a lot of those guys, because they're transfers or they're young kids, they're true freshmen. Mike Norvell is a CEO offensive coach. They're largely kind of playing for Tony White. So if Tony White leaves to be a head coach somewhere or a defensive coordinator at another school, dude, gonna be tough to get them twins and Kevin Wynn, right? Like Terrence Knighton goes with them. Like
I'm trying to think of guys who were like Tony White dudes, right? Like who would and listen, a lot of guys didn't follow from Nebraska, and hence part of the issue. Florida State's in,
very true,
where they're at. I do think the Desirs are guys who he really likes and vice versa. Not sure about Kevin Wynn. There's no one else who really comes to mind. It's like, oh, that's someone who would follow Tony White no matter what. Like how Stephon Thomas.
I just can't imagine that. I can't imagine he'd leave and go to like a comparable school.
As a DC, it'd be as a head coach somewhere.
Yeah.
Unless both sides are like, hey, this wasn't what we thought it was going to be. This isn't optimal. And he goes.
Do you think that's what's happened this year?
I don't think it's worked out optimally. I think there's been tension on both sides. Yeah. I don't know if that's like irreconcilable. But yeah, there has been, I think, friction and tension, not just Tony White, Mike Norvell, because I think they ultimately work fine together. I think it's been frustration with that defensive staff recruiting. The Terrence Knighton stuff is well documented from the offseason. That didn't get markedly, change all of a sudden in season. You can get enough in season results to really turn that around. Disciplinary issues or just cultural issues with the secondary and Evan Cooper's room. Like I just, I don't think it's been smooth. Whether that means you can't mend it or not, or it can't work. I'd stop short on saying that, but
yeah.
I don't get the warm and fuzzies if you come back with the defensive staff intact that all of a sudden year 2 is going to be humming again. I don't know there's any signs of that.
I think it's tough for them to forget moments like Pitt with regards to the defensive staff. I think that one is one that really stuck with them. Now they have, and I say this half-heartedly, improved as the year's gone on. They still have issues, but they have improved. They've been better. There's been less moments of pure stupidity with the way they went about doing their job.
Defense has been less of the issue in the back half of the season since the Stanford game, since you came off of that.
And you've played some pretty putrid defenses that your offense cannot figure out any ways to manufacture any kind of points with. I kind of point all these singular things up to look at a bigger picture. You made life harder on yourself, delaying the announcement that you knew was going to happen anyway. Everything that has been hard for Mike Norvell in these off seasons is going to get even harder with all of this kind of lame duck stuff. And I call him a lame duck because he should be a lame duck. Once again, the threshold, the floor, I don't know if he's a lame duck because I don't know if he could win. Yeah. He might be locked in way better than we think. He could win 3 next year. The
statement, I don't know if you guys discussed, the statement was very clear to not give a timeline on when he's retained too. It's just he's retained. It doesn't say retained through next week. It doesn't say he's retained through next season or into next season. It doesn't say he's retained for the duration of it. It just says he's retained.
It just because they don't have this, they can't put any sort of definitive anything on whatever, and they don't. So that's the thing is I keep calling him. To me he's a lame duck, but
all right. So
it's not going to be a great financial decision next year anyway. So he might be like in the clear, locked in way more than I think, which is that's something that I'm going to have to mentally wrestle with.
What could give you guys slimmer glimmers of hope? Because we're going to have to cover this thing. There's always the chance, like Chris has talked about it before, and I think it's well articulated. College football, the margins for going from bad to good to bad are as wide as ever. Like it can happen. Like you can go ahead and buy a quarterback for $5 million a year, and all of a sudden, things change real quick for you. What would give you guys a glimmer of hope that at least in the interim, it could be fun again, that you can be covering a 9-10 win one knocking on the door for the playoffs at least?
They're recruiting top 10 classes.
For me, I don't even like that would be sick, Zach. I don't know. I don't even know if they have the capacity to do that, no matter how much investment's there. They'd have to honestly go on a Texas Tech like run in the portal. It would have to be like before that 2023 season, something like that, which of course now you're asking them to do that with a presumably expected lower level of support around the program because you pissed everybody off. But that's the only way where I could be like, next year's going to be good. They would have to go on a stupid run in the portal. And that's why I'm not hopeful. But yeah, it would be
harder to do that now, documented than it has been.
And if they couldn't go on a Texas Tech like run in the portal, to Chris's point, they would have to get and pay the money for whoever the A1 stud quarterback is in the portal. Because there is still in college football, I do think great quarterback play can cover up a lot of warts that you have on your roster. I think it still can. So it would have to be something to where the portal activity, because that's such a factor of Mike Norvell's success, right? Like you whiff on the portal class, your team wins 2 games. You do okay on the portal class, your team wins like 5 or 6 games, right? You know what I'm saying? It's such a big determinant. They would have to go nuts. And that's the only way I would feel personal optimism for next year. And it's just going to be so much harder for them to do that.
It'll get your blood flowing a little bit. You ready?
Okay.
We know that Kenny Dillingham's not loving the NIL aspect of being a head coach, right? He wants people to ignite the what is it? The
Ignite the Valley.
Ignite the Valley. Thank you, Chris. And he's like, just come on, local businesses. This is tough. Like, I want you guys to do it. He's probably going to lose his star quarterback that he's developed. What if he's like, screw it. I want to do what Gus Malzahn has done, but just 30 years earlier. Come work for Mike Norvell. Bring your quarterback with you. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, you're contending for playoff spots again, guys.
Jerry killed Diego Pavia.
Hashtag King Madden to tally. Yeah.
First, I was like, please, Jerry, do it.
I did that once again. That would be cool.
To answer Trey's question, I think I articulated earlier, maybe in a bit of a feverish manner, that I would very much like them to like overdo it at quarterback and go get the sure thing, not the thing we hope is good or we think fits the system.
That would be a tangible thing. I can't. And the recruiting stuff would be nice, Zach, but I'm not sure that they can get them from high school to like year 2 or 3, and they're worth the shit anymore.
That's more of like a personal, like that's what I would want to get.
It'd be promising for sure.
Now that we've been freed up, I want Zach to dive in on a project of taking a recruit FSU started recruiting as a sophomore, who was not highly ranked at the time, but became highly ranked, charting how many times they came to FSU as a sophomore and a junior and how much it fell off as a senior. I think it would be very interesting if you could do that over like 10 to 15 people.
Travis Hunter.
I mean, they do a good job of getting some good talent on campus early on, and they'll even get them a few times, and then it just kind of dissipates down the stretch. And it's been one of those things that has happened at a pretty fairly regular rate, even when they were winning at a better clip than they have the last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
that would be a very weak article.
Yeah, they just have no buzz in the 27 class, and like I don't know.
Speak to that. Yeah, well, I mean, now let's speak to. Because you have a very great visibility on leading indicators of program success. What's Florida State? So talk about the buzz. Talk about what's Florida State's even program value right now in the eyes of these recruits. Like, I feel like this program is taking a lot of hits over the past couple of years. What are you feeling, Zach? Who do we stack up against?
Yeah, Brendan did an article on this over the summer, which I thought was really good. Kind of
thanks, Zach.
Going over who FSU's peers are, but I feel like I don't know what the data will suggest, but I feel like it's kind of dropped off some since then. But they should be. There's such a difference between what they should be and what it is, so it's hard for me to express this. But can I ask them to just win a few battles in the state of Florida every year against their rivals? That would be nice. Like true battles, like guys that are top priorities for the other 2 schools or one of the other 2 schools.
Got Conrad Hussey, bro. They got Edwin Joseph.
But like, I don't know. One thing I will say that I think is something that some of these schools are starting to do, which I really like, is they're kind of holding out spots in their class and looking at who rises as a senior, like guys that have really strong senior seasons that kind of come out of nowhere and shoot up, really just even shoot up the rankings, but shoot up, their priority list as they kind of continue to ascend. I've seen some more schools adapt to that, which has been, I think, a good strategy. But yeah, where FSU is
some really good defensive linemen this class through that process.
Miami did.
Miami. I like the kid from Lake Nona, and then they also brought in the Penn State kid who I liked a lot too.
Yeah.
Really good senior seasons.
Yeah, those are like senior riser types, and strong senior seasons speak to, usually speak to kind of a prospect ascending. But yeah, I mean, where FSU is, the 2027 class, like, feels very similar to how 26 was for them. It feels like they're going to have to hit the reset button over the next few months, evaluate guys that they really have a chance with. Like, you look at a lot of their top targets. Someone asked me the other day, like, what elite targets is FSU involved with, or is FSU leading for? And I listed like 8 guys in the top 50 that have been on campus in like the last year. But like almost none of those guys have been on campus this year. And the games that they did go to were like Miami. And it's like, okay, like what is that going to do? So I'm not trying to just be like, saying that it can't get better, but it doesn't, like, the 27.
It's not going to get better, dude. It's not going to get better. That's the thing is, like, I feel like, I don't know, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong on this. Like, the discourse of, well, I don't want to say it can't do this. It's always got there's 6 years of data. It ain't going to get better. It's just not. Well, maybe now that the statement that came out, like, oh, I care about recruiting now. Okay, maybe it will get better. That'll be cool to see what happens when the switch flips on. I'm tired of projecting future optimism when I have been unloaded with mountains and mountains of past historical data showing a fundamental skill that this guy can either not do or hold other people accountable to do. It's not going to get better, which is why this statement is so crazy. Like, this whole, okay, I gotta save some of this for my own thing. I want to talk, the last thing I want to talk about, because this is going to be fodder. This is going to have to, I'm going to have some internal discussions on how I talk about this program without what's happening today bleeding in and pissing me off every single subject that I talk about it. I'm going to have to personally figure out some ways. But I want you guys to talk about, we were surprised. Like, I was surprised, and I thought it was a great sign, the fan support that they got versus like Wake and Virginia Tech. And I want to commend the Florida State fan base. Dude, I think that they have been beyond patient and beyond reasonable with regards to being a college football, like, blue blood fan base, man. When you put it into that context, Florida State's a bunch of Buddhist monks. Like, they are the peak of patience when you compare them to other Division I high-level college football fan bases. Do you guys think that changes? I did. I was personally wrong. I thought you would see it with more immediacy versus like the Wakes and the Va-Techs. You didn't. Really good stadium. Obviously, lower capacity. Good stadium. Energy was a little weird because people are kind of waiting to see what happens, but I thought the support for the program was really great. Do we expect that to change from this day forward now? Or is it just, are we maybe a little bit too deep into this? Chris, what do you think?
I mean, I think it takes time to progress to that point where you start getting a multitude of empty seats where it truly stands out. We saw that the latter years of Coach Bowden here, but it took a while to get there. It took half a decade, roughly. They're going to be coming off of potentially back-to-back losing seasons, or at best a losing season and a 500 regular season with a bowl to determine if it's above or below 500. I think that's a tough pill for people to swallow. Also, we know the finances of the program for the fan has dramatically increased here in recent years, and I think that's another area where people will evaluate it further. I think it certainly hurts it. I think the decision is, a lot of people are just, oh yeah, we're going to renew, we're definitely going to go. I think we're approaching let's really think about this. But with reduced capacity of the stadium too, I think that it will be tougher to notice it.
Yeah, I think it masks some of the decrease in attendance.
Because, when it was dwindling, when it was an 85K stadium, it was dwindling. When it was 60, it looked a quarter empty. Now, if it's, 10,000 empty, I don't know how empty it would look. Like, I think that's one of those things where it'll be sort of a slow burn type of thing if it continues to go in a negative direction.
Okay. Zach, what do you think too? Just from what, I mean, you're an alumni, you're a fan. What's the general consensus around the program? You ran 2 polls this week on different platforms and got wildly different results. Are we still, everybody's kind of like 50-50? Like, are there a large portion of the fan base that may be happy with the decision to retain?
Yeah, well, Mr. Ricard is definitely happy.
That guy's a fun watch on Twitter.
How happy is he right now?
That guy is jumping.
I truly don't know. It's really hard to tell because the fans that we interact with on a day-to-day basis are those that are, on Twitter consuming FSU football content year round on our message boards, interacting with one another. And amongst that sect of the fan base, it seems overwhelmingly that they're against this decision. But I mean, as far as like future fan support, I gotta think that there's going to be some people with money that are impactful towards FSU's athletic department that are going to be more hesitant to give. But I don't know that. I mean, we saw
some of that has already happened.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know to what extent it's going to hinder them, affect their ability to go and, fund a good roster moving forward. I mean, that's the most important thing. And I don't know the potential impact that this kind of decision has on that.
I think it hurts so how many people that you think were in Doak Campbell for the Virginia Tech game, the percentage of people will know within the next 3 days that there was even a statement released that in the weeds to understand that Mike Norvell's job was very much so on the line. They all know what the product is. They kind of understand this isn't ideal, but who knew that, who's going to know? I would venture to say maybe 25% will have an understanding that this was even a thing.
It's so tough for me to gauge that because 100% of the people that I'm surrounded myself with outside of this are into this, dude.
Right. And
materially
that
into it.
I made that this is an echo chamber, and we also apply to a certain demographic, both from an age perspective and then just a financial commitment perspective. Now, there's people who are older that are probably throwing more money on a year-to-year basis than a lot of our subscribers are, but our subscribers are generally going to be like, Chris, would you say in our age group, 30s to 40s? For the most part, that would probably be our main demographic.
Probably the strongest percentage, yes. I mean, I've met plenty of older fans, 50 to 70s, but the internet stuff is still more gauged towards our group and the way they grew up and people that are younger than us.
Yeah, and so I think it's people who are probably donating, how boosters in their 30s would be donating. They're spending an extra $100 a year at Knowles 24/7. Or listening to OTB, the Knollcast, JC, whatever, they're listening to different podcasts while they're at the gym or when they're taking their kids to and from school. And they're the ones who are, I think that the administration is basically kind of that's who the signal is not to by keeping Mike Norvell. You're signaling to the older demographic, the ones who aren't in the trenches every single day, living the recruiting stuff that Zach puts out there, trying to dive into the minutia of breakdowns that the videos that Kev does. Yeah, I think that's who administration's kind of, for lack of a better word, placating towards. And I don't think that group cares a ton as long as it's not embarrassing. Well, this year has been bad. It hasn't been embarrassing to the point of what last season was. I think that's why attendance has been better. We're all embarrassed by the Stanford game that happened. But how many people know Stanford's horrible? How many people were there?
Even stayed up to watch the game.
To watch it. Yeah, exactly. And so the group that I think it hurts are more our contingency.
For now. And I do think eventually that does catch up to you. I mean,
what Wilds did last year, I agree with that, Trey, for now.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what the game, Wilds did last year, the fan base at large checked out on the team versus this year didn't. And there's different reasons. You can say these were night games. People maybe already bought their tickets lower.
Yeah, I think the Bama game also had an impact on that. I think on attendance. I think once they beat Bama, a lot of people kind of locked into playing. So
the schedule being so heavily front loaded, that helped too, where you were still actually playing for something.
My point, I guess I want to articulate is I think the ones who the real signal that came today through inaction was that you're okay. Truly, you are okay not being an elite program. You can say you're not. You can say that you've put resources towards it. But your actions today say that you're okay with the results over the last two seasons without a clear direction for it to be significantly better, you're okay with it. And I think the people who live it and breathe it day to day, who are super engaged, are going to be distraught. I know my closest friends who are Florida State fans feel that way. One texted me earlier, I'm sick. Another one said, F this. Another one said, I'm so angry. Another one said, I don't get it. I'm just pulling up this. I know this sucks. Yeah. So like, I mean, that's again, 30s to 40s.
It feels like man, like reverse manifest destiny, like realized, because how much talk has there been over the years? Like, God, is Florida State the next Nebraska? Are they the next this? Are they the next like fall in this? And it was like, no, man, 23 just happened, dude. They should have played for a national title. Like, this feels like a definitive, like, yeah, you're not that anymore. And it feels like the admin's like, it's kind of too expensive to be that.
It's hard to argue otherwise. And
dude, it's not fiscally responsible. The buyout is totally not fiscally responsible. Being a college football blue blood is not a fiscally responsive venture. And to me, I think it's so disheartening for somebody that's been into it for so long, is because those spots that you're talking about, those coveted, those like 10, 15 programs that like could, when things are going well, could compete for a national championship. Because that's really it in college football, man. There's a lot more parity, but it's haves and have-nots. It really is. And you rose from the depths of nothing under Bobby Bowden, and you grabbed that spot by force. You went to the LSUs on the road and the Michigans on the road, and you played these crazy schedules, and you went top 5 for a decade and a half, and you ripped that spot away, and it was yours. And you had it pretty honestly cemented based on the conference, the geography, the support. You had it locked down. And this feels like you've been losing your grasp on that rope for multiple years. And today it just feels like you finally just let it go. That it really does. Now, can you get that back? I don't know, dude. I don't know if you can get it back, especially with what's coming. But I felt like that's what felt so distasteful about this entire process is I know what this is supposed to look like. And I know that the value of just Florida State's spot in the pantheon, in the order of college football, the hierarchy, how hard that is to achieve. And when it's gone, it may never come back. Once again, Nebraska. I'm sad that it's not realized how valuable what this program has, that 120 or 130 other ones would kill for, would overspend, would financially leverage themselves to the hilt to have. And you have it, and you're kind of taking it for granted with these actions. And I don't know if I'm verbalizing that the correct way, but that's just really kind of what I'm feeling, why this is such a disappointing day for myself. And that's really all more I have to say on the subject right now, unless if you guys don't want to have any thoughts on that, maybe I'm being a little too hyperbolic.
No, I'm trying to, it sparked something in me, Trey. I'm trying to find something. I have an old Bill McGrotha book, and I had read this article in it. I'm just trying to find it.
Mm-hmm.
But the anecdote was like when Florida State wasn't invited to be part of the Blue Bloods, the good old boys club, when they didn't have a seat at the table, they didn't politely like ask to sit down there. They went in, they kicked their feet up and put on the table and just said, we're here now. And it today feels like a day in which you now stepped away from the table. And I wish I had the exact quote because it was so well written by someone who was poetic in how he covered the football team. But that's what it reminded me of. It's like there's this disheartening of, you're the unconquered program and you're conceding towards mediocrity or below mediocrity for the interim. And who knows long-term, but it's like you're playing with fire because you don't always get it back. It's not a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a birthright. You had to take it. You had to earn it, and you did. And it's not assured that you get it again. And they're I think being very flippant that you can get it back at any point.
I agree. And like all great kind of like empires, civilizations, it's never usually the great external force. It's usually the internal degradation within. And man, that's all I see right now. It's kind of the fall of Rome.
And like Rome, bread and circus to keep people occupied when when things were falling apart. We got the circus right now with the brand new stadium, and
We don't have any bread, that's for sure.
the bread ain't coming anytime soon. It sure seems like.
Chris, Zach, what do you guys think about that? I'm just trying to find a way to wrap this up before we have to.
I'm gonna steal a tray here. I'm tired, bro. Like it's been a minute. Like I remember being out there for Sean Murphy's visit January 12th of 2024. I want to say it was.
Yes.
Mike Norvell pulls up, drops him off. The white smoke of the Pope starts shooting out or not white smoke because we didn't have a new Pope, but Mike Norvell is staying contract extension. I remember thinking in the moment, that's a good day. Like keeping the guy who has won for you is a good thing. Then the terms of that contract, I think, became available in February of that year, and realized how long it was and pretty not ironclad. I hate that term. Thanks ACC grant of rights, but it was a lot of money. It was locking him up and thinking that I'm like, I get it. Well, 2 years later, I don't really like it. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. Like, I think the reason today happened is solely because of that moment.
Yeah.
And it went, and as I said so eloquently about going belly up in Ireland, it went belly up, and it went belly up really, really fast. And it's put them in a horrendous predicament where they had one of two choices. I was firing a guy who they liked, who is ultra expensive to fire, or sticking with a guy that they like, who isn't winning enough and irritating a lot of people by doing it. And they chose that one, and we will see what that gives us here in the coming weeks and months, and maybe years, maybe only months.
Who really knows? Zach?
I'm just, I don't even know anymore.
I got one thing.
Go ahead, brother.
The last point is, I hope it works for Mike Norvell because I do like him. I do like him, and I hope it works out. And not just because we're covering it and having to live it. Like, I hope it does. I don't think it will, and I've been pretty and that's fine. And I will gladly be wrong. I will gladly be wrong if he does hoist the trophy. But
I mean, at this point, I think that is well said. But I mean, if you hire a home inspector who's a nice guy and he misses the water damage and your house caves up on top of you, I don't give a shit if he's a nice guy anymore. I'm honestly kind of tired of talking about that because I think it obfuscates the poor job that he's done. I think it is good for you to point out that I have wrestled with talking about this person and his job at Florida State in the way that I do, in the way that I'm doing now, and honestly the way that I will continue to do forward for a long time. It's not, I make jokes, I do my own side podcast where I'm like the ranting, raving lunatic. I try to actually be a pretty thoughtful human being, especially when I'm on ventures like this, on this platform that Brendan, Chris, and Zach have built up to what it is. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the gravitas that this platform has. And I appreciate you, the listeners and viewers. But I'm done with the nice guy anymore because I think he's done that bad of a job. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm not going to belabor it. I'm not going to beat the point to death. And maybe I am talking from a little bit out of school because I'm not in Tallahassee. I don't have to say these things to the people in person. I would. But it's got to a point with me. And maybe after this, once again, I'm in the moment, maybe I'll calm down. And he is a nice guy, and I'll realize that again because it looks like we're gonna be stuck with him for a little bit. But God, man, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that right now. And I'm sorry. I'm gonna get all. We're gonna stick with you.
He doesn't care.
It's good for you to say it. It's good for you to say it, man. But
I don't even care if it's me. I don't care about. I think the nice guy thing's over. I don't want
I agree.
Nice guy. I think the nice guy thing's overblown. I think he's a normal guy to coach. I like the way he coaches. Like, I like watching when we were at practice. I liked watching practice.
Right.
I enjoyed it. I thought there was something to it. I know that he works hard. There's a lot of things that I do find admirable about him. But the roster, talent acquisition part of it, it just has to get better. And it hasn't gotten better, and they're now addressing it. I think it's too little too late. But I hope for the whole entire Tallahassee community, because clearly the thing that brings it a lot of money is also not earning enough to get itself out from the contract it's signed with a thing that's not working. It's quite the cyclic issue that Florida State is in right now. And for that reason, I do hope it works out.
Me too. And the only place you're going to see if it works out for the entirety of the Mike Norvell tenure is on Noles247.com. That is right, guys. You need a place to go and talk. boy, do I have it for you. It's at Noles247.com message board. It is fast and furious. Florida State's got one game left against their hated rival, the Gators. What are they going to do this Saturday, Thanksgiving Saturday? Their coach is locked in. Their players are locked in. We're locked in. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I personally am going to be talking to you probably tomorrow or tomorrow night, where it will be behind a paywall, and I'm going to say some heinous things. I am still very mad. I got madder as this program progressed. How about that? Anyway, I will be super happy if you guys go to Noles247.com and talk to me about it. Once again, I'm actually surrounded by real professional men in this business, Zach, Chris, and Brendan. I am not so, but I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you, the best listeners, the best viewers, the best subscribers in the business. Keep chopping. Keep chopping.